I would like to discuss about LAN. It is also a part of data communication components, module one, where LAN is there, different LANs like WAD LAN, wireless LAN, virtual LAN. So everything I discussed in today's topic based on this. Now, what is LAN? Local area network. Now, LAN is a group of computers that are connected in a small area like this, such as buildings, such as home, office, etc. So through this type of network, users can easily communicate with each other by sending and receiving the messages. Now, LAN is generally used for connecting two or more personal computers through some medium, such as already you have uh, familiar with this term, twisted pair cable, coaxial cable. I have discussed last week this medium. So through this medium, LAN is connected. Now, through the number of computers connected in a LAN is limited, the data is transferred at an extremely faster rate. That's so here's a diagram given. It is a single building LAN and it is the multiple building LAN where everything is connected via one backbone network. Now, WAD LAN. Now, what is that? Now, electronic circuit or hardware which are grouped to configure to determine by the physical interconnection of the components. Okay, so it is connected in this way. So different physical interconnection will be there between different hardware components. And what is the advantages of this type of WAD LAN? The first is the stability and reliability. Now, when configured and utilized properly, WAD network can provide unparalleled reliability. Now, as soon as the hubs, the different switches and different cables are installed together, you can have a reliable network at your disposal. Now, WAD connections do not get influenced by other network connections. Okay, in the vicinity by connectivity issues as much as their wireless counterparts. Now, that is why you will find that WAD networking, so where the infrastructure based on this WAD networking, that these are generally more stable. Second advantage is the faster speeds and high connectivity. So WAD network actually used to deliver much faster speed than wireless networks. The speeds have kept on improving since the use of like gigabyte routers. So those are become a common practice now. Now, in addition to that, a WAD network that has a limited set of users connecting to it at any time. So it's rarely it is used by unexpected traffic, delivering nearly constant high speeds at all times. Apart from this, since a separate Ethernet cable is used to connect each of the devices directly to this network, users can't users can run into common connectivity issues like where the common connection is required when connected to a WAD network. Okay. Third is the better security. Now, once the firewalls and other necessary security applications are configured on that particular network, now a WAD network is quite well protected from that unwanted or unauthorized access. And also such a connection can provide your uh, like our office, our some private space with ample protection for daily business uh, operations, as long as the network is being monitored for any highly suspicious activity. Okay. So better security is there. Accessibility next. Now, um, these web type LAN networks are not visible to devices on other networks. That means it's nearly impossible for um, users outside the network to try and directly connect to that network. Now, at the same time, any device that can access the web network can freely communicate with other devices on that particular network, as long as it's allowed to. And that means network admins can exercise a high level of user access control with relative ease. Now, there are certain disadvantages also, like inconvenience due to lack of mobility. So wired networks are very inflexible when it comes to mobility. To be able to access a wired network at different locations, there is no other option but to run extra cables and install switches at that particular location, which may or may not always be inconvenient, depending on how much mobility your business or your different mm, co-workers or different staffs demands. Okay. Second, that may require more time to install. Okay, so in order to connect each and every device directly to that particular network, um, installation of the switches, routers, hubs, these are the components. I will explain one by one later after this slide. So switches, different routers, these are can be lengthy or can be complex process. So installation of a wired network that may also take longer because more components may be required depending on the size of your infrastructure and other requirements. Third is the larger infrastructures require more maintenance. So if you are setting up a small wired network, it may or may not need a server. But however, once you begin growing the network or start adding more devices to that particular network, now it is essential to install a server in order to handle the required bandwidth and as well as the network load. So in that situation, the maintenance uh, cost actually that would increase. So in addition to this, you may also need to hire manpower to oversee the maintenance in case you need to set up the multiple servers. Okay. Then a slight inconvenience due to too many cables. So relying on a wired network would mean dealing with a bunch of cables that would not just be unsightly but also inconvenient. Like the Ethernet cables can also get disconnected by the uh, person which is operating who is operating that particular the cable, or in case of some cleaning purpose or for some maintenance purpose or by mistake maybe happened. So however, this disadvantage may not bother if the security, stability and reliability of that particular network connections are more of a priority for your as per your requirement. Okay. Then come to the next slide for wireless networks. Now, communications that take place without the use of interconnecting wires or different transmission media cables, such as by radio transmission. We have already so you are familiar with the unguided mm, media. Okay, guided media, unguided media. So unguided media, basically the wireless part. So here the radio, microwave or infrared are used. So wireless network that can be installed, mm, either peer-to-peer or the infrastructure mode. Peer-to-peer means the wireless device can communicate with each other, and infrastructure mode means allows wireless device to communicate with a central node, and that central node can communicate with wired nodes on that LAN. So in the same way, there are certain advantages of wireless networks, like high mobility is there. So when you set up a wireless network, all your so those are engaged with that is network installation, okay, setting purpose, that can access the network from almost anywhere. Or also all the suppose in an office, so that particular wireless network is already set up, so all employees of that office can access the network from almost anywhere in that particular office, and this way uh, they can bring uh, laptops and other devices into the meeting rooms and continue to access or download the important files and reference documents for the different discussions, so without having to rely on a set of cables or stay cables to stay always online. So it is not depends on any cable or the medium, guided medium. So it may not sound like a big deal, but it may improve your um, the employees productivity, especially during meetings, so it is very required. Okay, so that is the very so that means the high mobility is there. Lower cost to set up this wireless connection, so it requires fewer switches, routers, and very less ethernet cables, other hardware also as compared to the installing wired networks, and that's why the cost of the implementing this is relatively cheap in most cases, unless your network is set up requires additional equipment such as the commercial grid router, or you need some wireless repeaters. Okay. But basically it needs lower cost compared to the wired network. Third is the byte policy, that is easy to implement. Byte means the bring your own device policy. Okay, so it's becoming commonplace for a workplace to implement this type of policy where you can bring your device, uh, and it's much easier to implement such a policy on a wireless network as compared to wired network, because you can use it from anywhere, okay, from any device. So makes your office look neat and organized. So wireless networks basically um, uh, makes your workplace, office, buildings, etc. So it looks very neat and clean, since there are fewer cables to worry about. So again, this is not a big deal, but worth considering it if you are serious about making your uh, building or premises look more organized and very noise free. Next is easier to install and maintain. So overall, wireless network that can be installed much faster and with the relative ease, because it requires less equipment to set up. Plus, you don't need to spend much more time installing the countless cables and the connecting each devices to your network separately. So uh, maintenance is also easier, okay, since most of the job is software based and not the hardware based. So uh, the maintenance cost will be very less. So there are certain disadvantages also in wireless network. like the connectivity that may suffer occasionally, the possibility of this that interference or obstructions due to other wireless enabled devices is very high here in this context. So this can mm, compromise both the performance as well as the quality of your connection. So users may also run into these areas that have a bad connection, an issue that is occasionally present in a wireless network area, as we have faced every day. So due to words that might obstruct the connections, maybe. So so connectivity may suffer occasionally. Then next is security can be a concern here. Generally, wireless networks are a bit less secure than the wired networks. The main reason is uh, communication signals that get transmitted through the air. So, and easier to intercept by bad receptors. So you would need proper encryption technology. Okay, and as well as the very good firewalls and several other security measures in place to um, give it a safe and secure for use purpose. Okay. Next, slightly lower and unreliable data transfer speed. So wireless networks typically um, can't match the speed of wired networks. However, since the data transmission speed is primarily dependent on your current configurations, maximum speed capability like this, so you can always improve it further by using a hybrid solution, like both wired and wireless solution, wireless connection can be made together. So that is called the hybrid solution. You can make it, and so the data transfer will be more reliable. So these are different wire and wireless connection advantages and disadvantages. Now, how can you connect these LANs? So what are the different components or these kind of devices are required to connect in the LANs? So there are 5 kinds of connecting devices. One is the first is the repeaters, then hubs, then bridges, routers, and 2 or 3 layer switches also there. So repeaters and hubs, these are operate in the first layer of the internet model, that means physical and data link layer. So bridges and 2 layer switches operate in the first 2 layers, routers and 3 layers operate in the first 3 layers, so like this. So what is uh, repeater? So basically repeater is a device that operates only in the physical layer, as you have already familiar with the different layer topologies, uh, layer network, that is physical layer, data link layer, network layer, application layer, like this. So it is always that operates in the physical layer, and signals that carry information within that network that can travel a fixed distance before attenuation. Okay, so a repeater actually it receives a signal, and before it becomes too weak or uh, corrupted, regenerates this original signal or original bit pattern again. So that is the function of repeater. Then that repeater sends the refreshed signal to the receiving section. So a repeater basically can extend the physical length of a LAN, as you have seen in this figure. Okay, so it doesn't actually connect two LANs; it connects two segments of the same LAN. Okay, so it connects the segments of a LAN, and also it's a regenerator. So don't confuse with the amplifier. Okay, So an amplifier cannot discriminate between the intended signal and the noise. It amplifies equally everything fed into it. But a repeater, it is a regenerator. It's not an amplifier. So the location of a repeater on a link is very vital. So a repeater must be placed on um, such a place so a signal reaches it before any noise changes the meaning of that particular beats. So a little noise can alter the position of a beat's voltage without destroying its identity. Now if the corrupted beat travels mm, much uh, further again, so it accumulated the noise that can change its meaning completely. So at that point the original voltage that is not recoverable and the error needs to be corrected. So a repeater placed on the line before the legibility of the signal becomes lost, that can uh, still read the signal well enough to determine the mm, internet voltages and replicate them in their original form. So that is more vital. This position is more vital. Hubs. What is that? Hub can refer to any um, connecting device. Okay, it does have a specific meaning. Like a hub is actually a multi-port repeater. Multi-port repeater. It is normally used to create connections between stations in a physical star topology. Okay, so this is the connection of through the hub, and that is the device we have used in the LAN network. Next is the bridges. So a bridge can operate in both the physical as well as in the data link layers. So as a physical layer device, it regenerates the signal it receives. Now as a data link layer device, the bridge can check the physical address, MAC address, physical address, source as well as the destination, both addresses, which contains in the frame. So a bridge has also a filtering capability. It can check the destination address of the frame and decide if the frame should be forwarded or dropped. If the frame is to be forwarded, the decision must specify the port, and a bridge has a table like this that maps addresses to the ports. Okay. Next is the router. So what is router? Now, what is the function of router? A router, that is a network device that can receive the data, analyze the data, and then transmit it to other networks. Now it connects a LAN to the internet, and compared to a hub or switch, a router has advanced capabilities, as it can analyze the data that being carried over a network and decide how it is to be packaged and send it to another network at different of a different type. For example, data that has been divided into packets of a certain size. Suppose these packets are to be carried over the different uh, type of network, which cannot handle bigger packets. Now, in such case, what happened? The data is to be repackaged as smaller packets and then sent over the network by a router. Okay, so router can be wired or can be wireless. Now, a wireless router that can provide Wi-Fi, as we have already sound to this word, mm, Wi-Fi access to uh, smartphones and other devices. Now, usually, such routers also contain some ports to provide wired um, internet access. And these days, uh, home Wi-Fi routers perform the dual task of a router as well as a modern switch, or it's a modem, just like modem. So these routers connect to incoming broadband line and from internet service provider and convert them to digital data for computing devices to um, different processes. Okay, so that is the function of router, and here is the diagram for that particular device. Then the switch basically is a networking device that plays a central role in a LAN, like a hub. A network switch is used to connect multiple computers or communicating devices. So when data arrives, the switch extracts the destination address from the data packet and looks it up in a table to see where to send the data, send the packets. So it sends the signals to only selected devices instead of sending to all. It can forward multiple packets at the same time. So a switch does not forward the signals which are noisy, which are corrupted. It drops such signals and asks the sender to resend it again. Okay, so Ethernet switches are common in homes or offices to connect multiple devices and thus creating the LANs or to access the internets like this, like this. Next is the virtual LAN. Now, a virtual LAN known as a VLAN, that is a group of uh, hosts with a common set of requirements that communicate regardless of their physical location. Sometimes it is also called as logical network, and it has the same attributes as a physical uh, local area network, but allows for end stations to be grouped together even if they are not located on the same network switch. Okay, so next point or feature of this VLAN is network configuration that can be done uh, through software. Okay, uh, the VLAN controller can change or add workstations and manage load balancing and bandwidth allocation more easily than with the physical support of the LAN. Now, network management software that keeps the track of relating the virtual picture of the um, local area network with the actual physical picture. So these are the LAN, different LAN connections through which it is made this virtual LAN. So let us use an example to elaborate this full